Okay, so we're now live. So welcome to the first meeting of 2018. On the call, we've got myself, George Adams, Stuart, Simon, and Abdul. So I don't know exactly what's been going on. I know obviously our main priority is still with JCK testing and compliance. Stuart perhaps wants to just briefly mention what he's been doing first.
Yeah, I can do. I think we've got JCK runs now executing on Mac OS. There's one failure that's showing up that may be something that's going to have to be looked into. Other than that, we've got issues with the graphical tests that we're still trying to figure out at the moment. I'm getting timeouts in them at the moment. But we've only just started running them sort of in the last day or so. So, yep, we still need to work on that. In terms of other JCK testing, I've got we've updated to the latest OpenJ9 build, and that I think has resolved most of the problems we've had. So hopefully that will go through reasonably cleanly as well. We've just, again, got the two AWT failures that we've seen in the past, so we need to kind of figure out, by some discussion with Oracle, how we're going to resolve those. That's about it, really. So the next step is, as I've spoken to you about before, PPC, LE, and S390X Linux support would be next on the list.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think obviously one of the next priorities is going to be just sourcing the hardware. I know Tim started work on that, so I'll probably just try and pick up from him in his presence and try and get us some more boxes. But yeah, that's good. Simon, do you want to go next?
I was just going to follow on from what Stuart was saying and actually ask him a question. So at the previous call, Stuart, you mentioned that you tried signing up to the JCK mailing list and hadn't got any response. And also at the previous call, Rory from Oracle had said that we should take up our AWT failures via that channel. So I was wondering if they ever got back to you, because it looks like I'll need to join the same list.
No, I haven't seen anything on that yet, and I haven't chased it up, so I'll need to do that.
Right. Apart from that, I haven't done much at all, George. I've been away for Christmas and come back for 48 hours, so there's not much to report, really.
Brilliant. Okay, that's brilliant. Sorry, you broke up a bit then, so I wasn't quite sure what happened. Okay. Abdul, do you want to go next? I'm not sure if you've been up to anything.
Yeah, I was working on some regression test failures. So I was working with Shelley and Sophia. And as of now, yeah, there are two bugs we resolved, and one was from JTRUG build issue, and the second one was in the JTRUG report generation. So that two failures were from the build perspective, and two of them Sophia rerun, and she's not able to reproduce. So, and also it looks like resolved probably. So probably that also she will be closing, and other two bugs which I'm looking now. And I was feeling like whether we have this macOS builds generating, right? Is it in the, I mean, the build which we are creating, we are feeling like, is it a good build or it is in the halfway, or it is, because whenever I compare the build with the normal Oracle builds, the folder structure is a bit different. So is there anybody to tell, is it correct where we created the OS X builds?
So as far as I'm aware, the way that we're producing OS X builds should be the same way that Oracle is. So if there is a difference in folder layout, then that's probably something that we should look at. It might be worth creating an issue in the build repo just to sort of make that a bit clear exactly what structure layout is different.
Yeah, so when you say when you say Oracle Java, do you mean the Java that Oracle distribute as opposed to the OpenJDK Java that you can build from OpenJDK?
Yeah, maybe the build which is available in the jdk.java.net, the early access builds or the GA builds. And also what is the difference which I'm seeing is normally in the OS X, whenever we unzip or whenever we install it, will come to the contents folder. Inside the contents folder, there will be one home folder and one another folder, Mac OS. In the Mac OS, one more for it is some kind of one library is inside there in this macOS folder that is missing in AdoptOpenJDK.
So I don't think Adopt are doing anything strange. They're just running the build that OpenJDK say to run. So I would assume that the difference you're seeing is true of any OpenJDK build, not just AdoptOpenJDK builds versus Oracle Javas. It's just my guess.
Yeah, I believe if it has a contents and a macOS folder, that's something to do with the actual installed application layout, the way that Oracle actually puts it into the application folder.
Yeah, it will be good to have installed the download one binary from the JDK8.java.net one early access. Right now I think 8162 is there, so probably somebody can download one build from there and install it, and at the same time one from the AdoptOpenJDK can compare whether folder structures are correct and we are in the good shape or not. Because I was analyzing one of the test failure bug, regression test failure, and it is telling some of the library. It is not able to find out the library. Mostly it is like some symbolic links are missing in the binary. That's what I felt. I just had a first look. So if somebody can check and tell that is the macOS builds are correct or not, then I thought I can have more look on that.
I mean, they're sort of correct in that they kind of work enough to pass most of the JCK at the moment. So I think if there's a discrepancy with something specific, then I would raise an issue on it.
Probably the build which we are generating it will be correct, but some of the symbolic links or something is missing. That is what. If you can download the one build from the JDK.java.net site and compare I compared that two folders, so it looks different. That's why.
Okay, I mean, it'd be worth, as I said, it'd be worth submitting a diff file in an issue that we could perhaps look at, because obviously it's a bit hard for us to not be looking at the same thing as you.
Yeah,
I mean, I'd definitely raise it.
Let's get the issue documented.
Yeah, sounds like a plan.
Yeah. Okay, then probably I will start from that bug itself. I will add the details in that bug, and then I can forward in the channel. Already a regression bug is there. I mean, regression test case bug is there. So.
Okay, brilliant. Thanks for that. So if no one else has got anything to say, I'll probably the main thing that I suppose is on the non-existent agenda that I created before this meeting. I think the conversation that we're all trying to have is the process in which we're going to follow to run the JCK testing as to whether we run a whole host of tests, ship, and then run the JCK on it afterwards, or whether we do not ship a binary until the JCK is approved. I don't know if people have any sort of opinion on that matter, but it's certainly something that we're going to have to discuss at some point, especially with graphical tests that are going to take, you know, a day per platform to run manually as well. So.
Sorry, I'm talking with microphone off. So Tim has raised an issue basically describing that we need to work out what our test tiers are and so on. From a user's point of view, I think they just need to know which of the builds within Adopt meet certain quality criteria, of which having the JCK executed is one. Now we've talked, since Oracle already put out their quarterly updates with correspond to their security bulletin fixes, we've been talking about at Adopt having a similar build at the same level as that, which is one that we'd seek to mark as being this is a good one that users can take. So following on from that, I would then assume that that is the one that we want to put a lot of effort into making sure it passes all the JCK. So following on from that, step one would be identify the build that Oracle is seeking to be the one that they're supporting, then map the OpenJDK build to that, and then run the JCK against it. So on that basis would be, I guess, a day or two behind if everything goes cleanly in the JCK execution. leading up to that, I'd say it was up to us at Adopt to say how frequently we'd want to regression test the JCK. So I think that's a different debate we can have as to whether and which parts of the JCK we'd want to add to the Jenkins jobs against, say, 90 builds, because as you've observed, it takes a long time to run all of it.
Sure. I mean, I think at the moment, the sort of basis that we're on, if we were running all the automatic tests as they were, and then we had someone manually going and running the remaining tests, we'd probably be looking at about a week turnaround, I'd imagine, because of just the sheer amount of time per platform for someone to actually go and run those tests.
Yes, I think that's a reasonable assumption about that time scale, yeah.
Okay, all right. And I suppose that then raises the next question of, should we say we are JCK compliant on Linux, Mac, and Windows before we've run the JCK on AIX, or should we wait to have compliance across the entire suite and then mark a version across the whole board as JCK compliant? It all gets a bit...
Well, I think if I don't know what the mechanics are that we're going to introduce to do this, but at the moment the builds are done by individual platform, are they not? How you select what's download. So yeah. I think we may as well just tag them as soon as we have that information, if that's the way they're being done.
Yeah. Right. Okay. And I think we're still under the impression that we have to send off our test files to Oracle.
No. Yeah, there's one of the threads in the JCK private Slack channel. I got confirmation off Rory that we could basically self-certify and they had a right to audit results. So our effort needs to be where we're going to put the results so that if we do get audited, we know where they are. Now, I know Stuart has tweaked the automation this week so that no matter how big the run is, we have an option to say save all the results. So at the moment, we trash the results if they're not interesting, shall we say, on big runs. But we put in an option to save them all regardless, so that we should be able to facilitate that reasonably easily. The Jenkins, they all get zipped up in the Jenkins job anyway. So somewhere to put those zip files. And then we would need to add to the manual instructions I provided for running the JCK manuals so that when someone's done it, they know how to zip up the results and put them in the same place. So there's a bit of work to do there.
Right, so perhaps something like some form of FTP server that would store results? I'm not sure.
Yeah, that would seem sensible. So some other cloud image somewhere that simply holds them all. That would be one approach. Stuart, did you set up a machine to just do the Kerberos stuff? Is that now a permanent cloud box somewhere?
Yes, it's jckservices.adoptopenjdk.net.
So perhaps the storing of the results could be regarded as another JCK service. So that's something we could just exploit, perhaps.
That's an option. Or, I mean, it could even be just stuck in a GitHub wiki attachment or something like that. But we can figure something out.
Somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, they're not that big.
I mean,
I think the full run of the automated tests was less than, I think it was only about 700K or something like that. It wasn't that big.
That rings a bell to me. Yeah. I mean, obviously we've got to keep it private, I assume.
Yeah.
Because of it not necessarily passing. Okay. Okay, so that's something we need to look into. Right, that's good then, because I was still under the impression we were having to get Oracle to certify. That might be a bit easier then. I suppose the next step is, obviously, now that we're getting some platforms added, we need to have a bit of a think about how, as you say, Simon, how we're going to manually run tests and then kind of inject the results from that into the same location so that we've got a running backup of everything.
Sorry, backup of just the files?
Well, yes. I mean, obviously, when we're manually running the tests, I would assume that they create a similar sort of test output structure.
Yes, they do. Yeah.
And so we then just need to obviously automate or find some easy way of just making sure they all end up in the right place in this magical cloud drive.
Yeah, so I was thinking once we've kind of thrashed that out, it doesn't need to be very complicated, but I just put at the end of the instructions, when the tests have all run, zip up this directory and transfer it to this machine at this location, and then we've got a spec basically for a bit of automation if we want to say. Or you can do this by just typing this command in.
So I suppose the other thing to consider.
So I think, just while I held that thought, so for the first release, which is probably going to be this month, because I think Oracle are putting out their first update for 2018 this month in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So that would be our first real run. So if we kind of run through it manually, then hopefully we'll know how well it went and whether we want to bother automating what we did or think there should be a better way.
Right. Okay. So my other question was, of course, if we are doing these manual tests, I assume they require a graphical operating system.
Yes.
Is that so? I'm under the right impression. So obviously we'll need special hosting that gives us graphical Linux and other forms as well. Windows and Mac is okay already.
Yes. So Windows should just work as long as you can VNC into it. All the Unixes are going to need a display.
Yep.
That works.
Okay, that's all right. We can do that. Right. Okay. AIX can do that, can't it? Yes.
Oh yes.
If you mess around with it enough. Yes. If you mess around, you can. Brilliant. Okay, that's cool. I think that's about all the questions I had.
It's just a Unix. So whenever we get to ZOS, though I'm not sure whether we would, but if we did, that's a headless Java, so all those tests aren't applicable to that implementation.
That's quite amazing. So we can have a ZOS JCK build out before all the rest.
No, it's not like, well, not this week, not this month.
No, not this month. Well, the port's still in progress, isn't it? But yes, I'll keep my fingers crossed. Saw Shelley join the call. I don't know if you can hear us, Shelley.
Yeah, I can hear you. Sorry,
Cool.
I didn't realize we had one today.
That's all right.
Yeah, sorry, that was a point I was going to raise. Can we get the announcement, for want of a better word, of this call put somewhere so we can look it up at about 2:55 UK time on Thursdays?
Yeah, we could. I think there was mention before having a Google Calendar that we could all subscribe to that would have details like calls and joining details and stuff in. It's a way to control that.
Yeah, anything, but something.
Okay. Cool. I'll do my time management better next time. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Shelley, did you have any updates for us? Abdul gave us a brief overview, but
Yeah, I guess I'm meeting with Sophia and Mesbah this afternoon so that we can take a strategy for turning on more testing. So based on that spreadsheet that you shared yesterday, George, we'll actually start to for those. Even if we don't have machines available, we'll create the jobs, and then when the machines become available, we can enable them.
yeah, that'd be good.
The only other thing, well, the other thing on my plate, my personal to-do was to turn on the JCK jobs so that they would be triggered from the completion of the build. And for now, we were just going to make sure that mechanism worked and not worry about running the entire suite. I just wanted to check if thing that people wanted me to do.
So we've got a, obviously you've seen the second CI that we've set up, and we have a special plugin that is able to do that.
Yeah, and I've seen your
so
test job for triggering that, so I was just gonna take that.
Yeah,
same.
so it should basically be a case of just cloning that sort of result, and then obviously having a post trigger that triggers that job. And then with the nice thing about it is you can either have the job set off another job and then just dump it itself, or it can actually continuously poll until it gets a result back. So I imagine with the JCK, we probably just want to trigger the job and then dump the job. Otherwise, we could be holding up a lot of executor time in our main CI. But it's useful to have that. Okay. The only other thing was, of course, I remember talking to you about, so obviously Stuart's made us lots of jobs that are running JCK. Is that the kind of final thing that's just going to be renamed, or are they going to be in a more sort of pipeline-y layout once we're a bit happier with the machine setups?
Well, so I noticed that someone has in the main CI AdoptOpenJDK that called pipelines, and I wanted to ask that question. At the moment, the compilation jobs, is it Is it that something changes in the JCL repos and then they fire off jobs, or is it by schedule? I think it's by schedule based on those builds that I've seen.
Yeah, it's scheduled every night.
Okay.
At a certain time.
So things we have an option for doing is once those complete, triggering off all of the and I guess we'll call it a parent pipeline for the tests. And that's kind of where I was planning to go with that, rather than each individual. It's annoying right now the way we have it, or for me it's annoying that we have to individual build job to fire off tests. I don't think that's the right approach, because it means touching the configuration of a compilation job to fire off test builds. And if we want to add more test builds, we muck about in those other builds. So the meeting we're having today is to make that change. It'll still look like the same workflow that I kind of outlined, where compilation fires off test, fires off deploy, but we'll just do it with a slightly different mechanism, so there's less cross-contamination or less cross. I don't have to touch those jobs, hopefully, to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure whether I don't think you're in the release work group, are you? So basically, there's some special hidden pipelines that run every night, and the way that they work is they obviously run the build job, and then they run a checksum job, which creates the checksums from all the corresponding builds. And then we then copy all of those binaries and checksums into another job that then basically pushes them out to GitHub as a release. So obviously the obvious way to do this would be to just add the test as another stage there.
Yeah, exactly.
I think my main reason that it hadn't already been done was obviously what I didn't want to be doing build releases for 6-7 hours if a test job is hanging or something. So I'm not sure whether there's a way of perhaps kicking off a test build and then immediately going to the next step and not waiting for a response. That would kind of be the ideal. That would be the ideal approach, I suppose. I guess what I'm saying is I don't really want us to be holding up our build pipeline with in the same way I don't really want the JCK to hold it up.
I agree. At the moment, why don't we have it so that it triggers them but doesn't block the deployment? And then later, if we want to switch that, we would have the option to. So yeah,
I would hope at some point. Sorry, second.
Go ahead.
I was saying, obviously, I would hope at some point that we'd be at a reasonably stable point with testing, to the point where we can comfortably run, 4 or 5 hours of tests after a build, and then at that point push it out. But whether we're at that point yet or not, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I agree. I should also mention we've made some updates based on Munir's suggestions and issues we had open, and they are now corrected by his suggestions. So we're re-including a bunch of tests now. So we'll be able to close some of the test issues that we had open. We'll continue to chip away at that list. But for the
that's good.
Yeah, it's really good, and I'm hoping he will continue to look at that list as well. So I'm hoping we can be in a position where we have issues in half in the next couple of weeks. So, yeah.
Brilliant.
So okay, I'll work with people on the Slack channel for turning on, launching or triggering our tests slightly differently, just so that there's less footprint, less touching these other jobs. I think it'll make it a lot easier to be turning on more testing later if we want to.
Sure. I don't know if you were on the call at the point when I said, Shelley, but I'm planning over the next few weeks to go through the backlog, things that people are after, and try and go and request some of those, because it'd be good to obviously pack out the machine coverage that we already have for the tests, so that we can reach a point where we can kind of build and test over the full range.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I guess the one other thing, had Windows tests running successfully before, but I think our test machine is sick, so I think we probably should it or refresh it with the update or a rerun Ansible on it, because it's to stay healthy. And we've seen those tests run successfully to completion, but they don't, after a few runs, that machine seems to, I don't know, Stuart, that with the CKs on Windows now, with the machines you have configured?
No, I haven't run a Windows, only Mac and X Linux.
Oh, okay.
Right, okay. I'll try and chase that one up for you, Shelley, because that's a bit inconvenient if it keeps breaking.
Yeah, and it's one of the sets of tests that we do see that we can run, and we have the machine for it. So it'd be nice to get that healthy. It's the build I currently have. Progress green continuously. But I'd like to be filling out that test tab with the rest of the ones we're turning on. So.
Yeah, that'd be good, definitely.
Infrastructure.
Yeah, stick that in the infrastructure repo, and I'll try and chase that one down this week.
So on that, sorry, Shelley, just a question about the JCK run. So Terry's been putting together a playlist for the JCK command lines, and bypassing the Meg file that we put out with the OpenJDK system test repository. So we need to define what are the command lines that need to be in the playlist to effect a full JCK run. I don't know if you listened, I don't know when you joined the call, but we were talking earlier about the need to archive the results in case Oracle would like to audit our runs. And Stuart has been working with the top level Meg target that we did in the Meg file that runs 250 other targets and making sure we can gather all the results together. But that target, yeah, so we need to do the equivalent in the playlist, which I think would be 8 top level command lines, but we need to make sure we got those covered.
Yeah, and certainly as you saw the first, the PR that Terry put in, I've asked him only to put a couple targets in to start with, just so we can get this.
Okay, it's one inch. Yeah, sorry, I missed it unless you've committed it and I missed the whole of it, but yeah, good.
Yeah, the plan will be once we have it working well, we'll add the entire list of targets. And I've seen Stuart's work on the archiving of things. So yeah, definitely. When we get to that point, I'll make sure that we are doing the same thing. As you know, at the moment, I've chosen not to use the extra layer of make from STF system test because I'm reluctant to keep adding layers on top of layers. But
yeah, I'm just making sure we don't miss something by doing that. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So if it turns out that we want to go back and insert that layer because it's more convenient, then we will.
Brilliant. Yep. Anybody got anything else? Shelley? Oh.
Just so folks are aware, some of the delay, we've been focused, or a few of the people have been focused on other builds and other projects over the last month. Now coming into 2018, I'm hoping we can redirect a little bit more attention to the adopt stuff. So hopefully we'll start getting a few more things turned on and running with a little more vigor.
That'd be brilliant. We'll have to get some more people from the outside in as well. That'd be ideal.
Yeah. I know, because Tim won't be able to run all those manual tests himself.
Yeah, I don't think you'll be doing it more than once.
I'm pretty sure he volunteered for it. But
yeah, he did in the last call, right?
Leading by example, you call that.
Oh,
that's all I had by the way.
Cool. Anything else then before we call it a day?
Yeah, Shelley was mentioned that in the starting that we are going to include some more test suites or tests, or we are going to add more test suites. So what kind of test it is?
Oh, so we have the OpenJDK regression tests and the compliance tests. We additionally have a set of system tests that we'll be turning on for the different platforms. We have a few micro benchmarks that we'll be probably turning on, although those are more for people to consume locally, download and run on their own machines. And then additionally, we also have some functional tests that we could bring to the table. So if you take a look at the most recent blog entry that I put at the AdoptOpenJDK blog, different tests are, and I linked to a 15-minute presentation about what they look like and how you can run them. So maybe take that. I can share you the link as well here.
Okay, thank you.
I'll throw it in the Slack channel so you know.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and thanks by the way, Munir, for so far with helping get some of the issues closed. I'm hoping you'll continue to work through those with us because that's been really useful.
Yeah, sure. Yep. Actually, I mentioned in the starting of the meeting that I am seeing some issue with the Mac builds. Again, I will relook into a little bit more and probably I will chat tomorrow.
Okay, great.
The Slack channel.
Yeah, fantastic.
Brilliant. Okay. Anything else? Nope. Silence generally means no. So I think we're cool of the day then. So thanks everyone for joining. Keep up the work. And let me know if you need machines.
Sounds good. See ya.
Cool.
Thanks.